Hey everybody, it's the OMAD Dad. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, a channel that is dedicated to living the OMAD lifestyle, or eating just one meal a day. Today I want to talk about what I feel are the 11 most common triggers to activate your hunger. These are 11 little road hazards that you're going to encounter on your path. I think there's some of the top ones. There's probably an unlimited number out there, but these are what I feel are probably the most common, and some of these I've even done videos on, and others I can even go into a little bit more depth later on to do a video. But if you're going to have success on OMAD or any weight loss plan, these are some things that you're going to have to eventually conquer. These are things that you're going to face, you're going to have to conquer them, and you're going to have to stick with your plan. But you know, they're really not all that, it's really not all that scary once you get down to it. So I want to go and explain as I go through this list. But I want to get into some of what I feel are the top hunger triggers. Number one, exercise. On my channel and other channels that are specific to OMAD, it emphasizes a very important part of your day in any sort of healthy routine and lifestyle, but too much very intense exercise can actually work against you. One thing I've noticed is that when I would try to do a lot of strength training or a lot of intense cardio, those are the days where I often find myself the most ravenous. And the more hungry you are, the more likely it's going to be that you're going to slip, or that you're going to feel you need to replenish the calories that you're burning. And it probably would make sense too if you're training at the level of, say, Michael Phelps, who probably in his days of going for the Olympics would spend 8 to 10 hours a day in the pool and exercising. You're eating one meal a day may not be sufficient for you. You may need more, especially seeing how some of his meals would maybe be around the 4,000 or 5,000 calorie mark, and you can go look that up. His total calories for the day would be around 4,000 or 5,000 calories just to make up for all of the fuel that he needs to function at his level. And so if you're going to eat that in all of one sitting and try to eat somewhat healthy, you're just going to find yourself in a lot of pain. But there's something to watch out for. Often what's emphasized in our society today is like it's like no pain, no gain. You have to sweat and grovel in the gym, and you have to exercise your butt off. That's the only way to lose weight. It's definitely helpful. There's a lot of health benefits to it, but I'm telling you, they could also be counterproductive. So that's something to watch out for. You have to find what your balance spot is. You have to find that happy medium between, just that sweet spot really, before going and doing too much or just doing too little to actually count for anything. Number two, habit. When I say habit can be a hunger trigger, I mean that when I first started this, one of the toughest times I had was actually after my OMAD meal was over with, and it was around, say, 9, 10 o'clock at night, because it was always a habit for me to sit in bed with my wife, and we'd watch our show at night, whether it was a movie or a TV show, and we would have our little snacks. We'd have some ice cream. Sometimes we'd end up, she'd have me go out and get like a McDonald's, it would be almost an extra meal, considering we already eaten dinner and a couple of other meals during the day. It was usually a lot of junk food, a lot of sweets. Sometimes I loved popcorn, a good salty, buttery popcorn, and then maybe having a glass of wine or some other drink. But the point I'm trying to make is that for the longest time, around 9, 10 o'clock, when I was on OMAD and just starting out, I would, around that time at night, I would get hungry, and I would, even though I knew I had just eaten and that I was okay and I'm fine, it was around that time I'd start watching TV with her. I'd start to get hungry because it had that memory within me. It was like it was triggering this memory of being there and eating, and so it took a little while to get through that. And maybe that's not the time when you have your little snack. Maybe you have that little 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon pick me up, and then now you're on OMAD and you're only eating at 5 o'clock at night. That the habit is going to be a little bit, that time habit is going to take a little time to kick. But that's something to look out for too. But know what those times are and be extra vigilant and extra aware of your surroundings, and make good decisions ahead of time and say, okay, this is when my time is. This is usually a cheat time for me, or a cheat situation. I'm going to make sure today is not one of those days. 3, the holidays or special events. For some reason, we feel like the holidays are just an excuse to go crazy. Where I am here in my little area in Massachusetts, St. Patrick's Day is like a huge thing here. So people go crazy and they go on these big drinking binges, and there's a ton of food all weekend. But it could be the Super Bowl. It could be Christmas. It could be Thanksgiving. It could be a New Year's party. It could be 4th of July. It could be your birthday. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like, those special occasions come up. And it's okay to have a splurge day once in a while. It's okay to, cheat, if you will, or, do something a little bit out of the norm. But, you don't want to, you want to remain in control. This is ultimately, that's what it's all about, is remaining in control. You're the one who's in charge of your actions. The food is not in charge of your actions. It doesn't make the decisions for you. You have to decide it. You can decide ahead of time, like, hey, I'm going to go into Thanksgiving. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to have my Thanksgiving dinner, and that's my OMAD, and then I'm done. And you may have a few more calories that day than you normally do. That's okay. It's when you spend the entire day eating and binging and just going on this total downhill slope that could be a big trigger for you. So just keep that in mind when you get near the holidays. Set yourself up with a good plan. Be strong. Stick to it. Number 4, peer pressure. This is a hard one, especially with family. And you can't avoid your family forever. You can't avoid your friends. But a lot of people who mean well, if they're going out to dinner, or if they're at a dinner time, a lunch party or something, or there's pizza in the break room, or somebody brought in donuts at work, there's often that peer pressure of, well, how come you're not eating with us? Why don't you want to eat with us? It's almost like people feel insulted, and they don't understand that it's not your time to eat. So you're going to encounter those situations. So you could either run away if you feel one is coming on, or you can avoid your family and friends altogether for eternity, but that's not practical. Or you could just decide ahead of time that, I'm going to spend some time with you. We could go into the break room and have a little talk, a little break. I can go ahead and see my family, and I don't necessarily have to eat something while you're there. It's people who are your true friends, who truly your loving family, they will understand what you're trying to do, especially when you say, listen, I'm trying to get my health in order. I'm trying to lose a little weight here. You can help me out by, not making me feel like I'm obliged to eat with you. But peer pressure is a big one. Number 5, other people's success. I say this can be a trigger, often, especially if you're in social media, like on Facebook or different groups, and you go to OMAD, or if you're going through YouTube videos, and somebody will post a comment like, oh, I've been on OMAD for 2 weeks and I'm down 25 pounds. Well, first of all, you have no way of really verifying and knowing if that's even true. But some people will hear something like that. They'll say, geez, I only lost 2 pounds, or I haven't really lost anything yet, and I've been doing this for 7 days. What gives? Maybe there's something wrong with me. And then that gets that wheel turning in your head, and then people decide, to hell with it. I knew this wasn't going to work for me. And then they do something that makes sure and guarantees that they don't have progress. They go and cheat, or they splurge, or they do something stupid, or they have a bad binge. So congratulate other people when you hear these wild stories, like somebody losing a crazy amount of weight in a very short amount of time. You can congratulate them in your head. Be skeptical if you wish, but focus on you and focus on making your life work. Often I'll hear people say, geez, I'm so frustrated. I only lost half a pound this week. Look at it as a blessing. Look, it's success. You're half a pound closer to where you need to be. You got a half a pound of fat out of your system. You were successful. You did something. Many other people out there won't even begin to start to look and attempt anything like what you're doing. So don't shun yourself for for just a half a pound or just a quarter of a pound, congratulate yourself. You're doing it. It's going to happen. It may be a little bit slower for you than, say, somebody else, but it's still happening. Number 6, here's another big one that people often will slip up on, and it'll cause their hunger to go crazy, and that's travel. You're in a different environment. You're in a different situation. There's the stress of, I got to get the plane. I have to get over here. Maybe I'm with my family, and make sure the kids get on, and any planes, or they lost our reservation, or you're in a new town. You don't really quite know where to go out to eat. That can sometimes trigger your hunger in a way that, especially in new sights and smells, and I want to go to this restaurant, especially, and if you're a foodie like me, it's like, oh, I want to go to that restaurant, try this and this. But you got to have a good plan ahead of time and know your limits and say, okay, I'm still sticking with my OMAD today. This is where I'd like to go. Think about it ahead of time, kind of plan. And if you're not really sure, you could always go to some of the similar chain restaurants like you would have over in your area. Maybe you go to a Chipotle for lunch, as an example. You go to Chipotle because you know that the salad bowl rather, with the chicken and the rice and whatever you like in it is, maybe 750 calories or whatever, and you'll have that and something. That could be your OMAD for the day. But travel could be one that, and it's mostly the reason why travel is a problem for people is because of the stress that's involved with it. And that's actually the next one on the list, and stress. It could be from that. It could be from, you had a fight with somebody, you got cut off in traffic. You're worried about there was a death in your family. You're worried about getting laid off. Stress. The next one, it's not only does the cortisol that's released from chronic stress cause physical harm to your body, but it causes us to do things that and trigger our hunger in ways that normally wouldn't. And what I can say is like I've said before, you can't take yourself out of every potential situation. So what you have to do is sit there with awareness, look at your situation and say, what can I do now? It might be there's nothing I can do. Then you have to make peace with that and at least do what you can. Obviously, you may be in point A and you want to be at point B. You do what you can to get to point B, but you can't get hung up and too worked up and stressed over how long it's going to take me, or when is this going to happen? Recently we had a death in my family too, and it's tough. Those are the tough ones. A lot of stress and a lot of sad times, but you have to realize deep down that me having, if I go, this is bad news for me, or it's a horrible day. But if I go out and I binge and I eat 3,000 calories, I'm going to have a bad day on top of a bad day. So that's something else to consider. So I believe we're up to number 8, and that is boredom. Boredom, it's kind of like, the previous one where I talked about habit. You're sitting around, you're bored, maybe you're watching TV. That's especially a time when I used to always have a little snack, be chomping on popcorn or something, or you're bored and you almost start to get anxious a little bit, and it can cause, psychologically, it can cause you to be hungry and make you desire food at that time. So again, a lot of these, what they involve is being aware of what triggers you and thinking ahead of time how you're going to face that situation. And be helpful for you, and there's a few more to go through here, but it would also be helpful for you if you kind of kept a journal when you had an unplanned binge or a splurge, and write down when, what happened, why, what you believe some of the things caused this trigger to happen. And it'd be pretty telling when you go back and you read it after, say, 7 or 8 times to find out what it is. It may be something different each time. It could be the same thing over and over again. And it'd be very eye-opening for you to go in to say, hey, you know what? Looks like, of the last 8 splurges that were unplanned that I had, they were all involving peer pressure, involving my family. So that would be something good to know. But so yeah, boredom is something to consider. Number 9, sugar. Excuse me. When I post my meals on this channel, often I will include a dessert. Not all the time, but I don't have dessert every day. But I'll work that and incorporate that into my meal. But I try to keep the portion pretty small and the flavor high, mostly so that because I find, for me anyway, if I have too much sugar, it kind of triggers my hunger. And I can end up getting this like sweet tooth, and it's like I get ravenous. I can ravenously crave more sugar, especially chocolate. I love chocolate. So you have to be mindful of that. And you know, sugar ultimately was, you know, used to always be a condiment, and now it's in everything. So especially if you're having a lot of processed food, so you may want to, if you're finding that you're eating your OMAD and you're crazy hungry, and you know a lot of the food that you're eating is a little bit more on the processed food side, check to see how much sugar you're consuming every day. It may shock you, and it may be that cutting back or cutting it out entirely may help you with some of these hunger triggers that you'd get. So I think we're up to number 10, diet soda. I have a lot of people who watch this channel know I have my own opinions on diet soda. I don't believe it necessarily causes an insulin spike. Some people will disagree with me. There's ways of testing that for your individual body. But if the diet soda has 0 calories, it does technically not break your fast. Is it a good thing to have? Well, no. It's got other junk in it, like, you know, it's got caffeine, and it's got a whole bunch of other chemicals and caramel color, and there is no replacement for really good water. But, you know, all of those debates aside, often what I've heard from people who consumed a lot of diet sodas was that instead of it being an aid to them in keeping the weight off, it actually helped them to become fatter and heavier because it triggered their hunger. And when I was, even looking back as a Diet Coke drinker, I can see there were many occasions where that would happen. And, you know, it's like it kind of would build on itself. You know, you drink and you have one, and it's supposed to, you know, help curb your hunger for a little bit. And then it's like, right then again, the hunger's right back, and now you have to have another soda. So that's something to be mindful of. And really, you want to be drinking good, number one, be drinking good, clean water, and plenty of it throughout your day. You know, coffee, black tea, you know, those are good to break up the monotony of things. But really, you know, leave the diet sodas alone. Get yourself some good water, and I can tell you that my hunger is not triggered nowhere near as often and as much when I have my days of just drinking water as opposed to having the diet soda. If that's not a trigger for you, then, you know, just move on to one of these other ones that I have on my list. But that could be an issue for some people, could trigger your hunger. And you want to the thing is you want to have as smooth of a ride on your OMAD as possible. It's a long time to be going in between not eating, especially with the world that we live in, with food being ever present. And number 11, the last one, is alcohol. Again, excuse me. This isn't necessarily so for every single person. I know some people who do their OMAD, and I believe there's a podcast out there that do some form of intermittent fasting, and they make sure they have a glass of red wine every night. I have a glass of red wine a couple times a week. But if I'm trying to lose, I notice that it doesn't really help in me being able to take the weight off. So if I need to, you know, go down a little bit, if I'm getting a little bit up there, a little closer to my to the higher end of my BMI index, then I'll, you know, cut back on not having any alcohol at all. So other than the weight loss, you know, aspect of it, I know there are some people who will drink alcohol and it'll make them hungrier. So just something to be aware of. But as you can see, these are a pretty big, encompassing group of possible hunger triggers. And, you know, it would be impossible for you to try and avoid every single one of these and just steer clear of them. So you have to make your peace with the fact that they're going to be around you. They're probably going to be in your life. And if they're a trigger for you, then you need to become aware of it, and you need to come up with a way to effectively deal with these particular triggers. Because you can't run away from every single one of your problems. You have to face them head on, and do what I mentioned earlier in this video. When you notice you're having an unplanned binge or an unplanned splurge, you're having difficulty sticking with just eating the one meal that day, write down every bit of information as you can in a journal, so that you can go back and you can say, okay, well, in the past 3 months, as an example, maybe I binged 4 times, and each time it was sparked off when this happened. It may be something different, it may be a collection of different things, but it still would be helpful for you to know what causes your hunger triggers, what triggers you into making decisions that aren't the best for you. Because we're all here, we all want to make our OMADs work, we all want to live the intermittent fasting lifestyle. There are so many health benefits and personal benefits to this. After 2 years of doing this, believe me, I'm not looking back. I'm still, and I'll tell you this: I'll be the first one to say it. Even I'm still learning on this journey. I'm learning what works for me and what doesn't, and every apparent mistake that I may make for myself, so I find something that doesn't work, it gets me closer to knowing what really does work for myself. And I could tell you that living OMAD, I am just so happy. And what really makes me happy, though, it's not just seeing it work successfully in my life, but hearing from all of you guys out there about how well OMAD has worked for you, how much better you feel, how much weight you've taken off, how it's changed your life. So keep those comments and emails rolling in. That is it for me for today, folks. Until the next time, have a great day, a great week, a very happy OMAD, and be well.